While a 10-minute video can provide a compelling overview of the relationship between biblical creation and modern science, it barely scratches the surface of these two vast and intricate fields. Consequently, the video serves as a high-level summary, a starting point designed to spark curiosity, rather than provide a definitive conclusion. A deeper study is required to appreciate the full depth of the conversation. More in-depth resources can be found at reasons.org.
Hi, my name is Brent. This is the story of the 7 days of creation, a journey through billions of years of cosmic, geological, and biological history, seen through the lens of both scripture and science. In the beginning, everything began. Before stars ignited, before galaxies swirled, before Earth's oceans churned in the deep, the universe itself came into existence from nothing, not from chaos, not from chance, but through intention and design. Genesis opens with the statement, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." The Hebrew word for created here is Bara, which is used only when something entirely new, never existing before, is brought into existence. According to modern cosmology, the universe did indeed have a beginning. Around 13.8 billion years ago, space, time, matter, and energy all came into existence simultaneously in the event known as the Big Bang. It's important to note here that this verse describes everything, the entire cosmos, before narrowing the perspective to Earth, which becomes the frame of reference for the days of creation. Genesis then describes the Earth as formless and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep and the Spirit of God hovering over the waters. This picture aligns with what scientists understand about early Earth, roughly 4.5 to 4 billion years ago. The planet had recently been struck by a Mars-sized body, Theia, which melted much of its crust and ejected material that would later form the moon. The atmosphere was thick and opaque, loaded with volcanic gases and dust, making the surface completely dark. Oceans covered the surface, but continents had not yet formed. The stage was set for God to begin a careful process of transforming the Earth into a habitable world. Day 1, God spoke, "Let there be light," using the Hebrew verb yehi, meaning let it appear or let it become visible. He did not create light here, it already existed. Instead, light finally reached the Earth's surface. The early atmosphere, still hazy from volcanic gases and Theia impact debris, began to thin as Earth cooled and heavy aerosols settled. Diffused sunlight penetrated for the first time, illuminating the global oceans. The atmosphere was now translucent, much like an overcast day. This was the first visible day from the perspective of an observer on Earth. It marked a transition from utter darkness to light, an epoch rather than a 24-hour period, occurring roughly 4 to 3.8 billion years ago. On the second day, God said, "Let there be an expanse between the waters," again using Yehi signaling organization rather than new creation. The atmosphere began to stabilize, forming distinct layers. Water vapor condensed to form clouds in the upper atmosphere while oceans and seas collected below. This separation of waters above and waters below established a stable hydrological cycle, allowing precipitation to fall consistently and moderating the climate. By 3.8 to 3.5 billion years ago, Earth had a functioning water cycle, setting the stage for the emergence of life. The third day brought the appearance of dry land as tectonic forces shaped the first large continental masses. The seas receded from the elevated crust, and the first shorelines formed. Around 3 to 2.7 billion years ago, continents became stable and life on land began to emerge in its earliest forms. Genesis describes plants coming forth from the land, a phrase emphasizing emergence rather than direct creation. This corresponds to the rise of photosynthetic microorganisms that initiated the Great Oxygenation Event roughly 2.4 to 2 billion years ago. Cyanobacteria flooded the atmosphere atmosphere with oxygen, gradually transforming Earth's air, clearing the haze, and creating the ozone layer which made life on land possible. The text captures this sequence remarkably, as plant life appears only after land emerges and prior to the appearance of higher life forms. By the fourth day, the sun, moon, and stars became visible from Earth. Genesis says, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens," again using the Hebrew word Yehi, signaling a change in visibility rather than creation. During the late Proterozoic, roughly 600 to 540 million years ago, oxygen levels increased, volcanic activity declined, and atmospheric aerosols thinned. The sky transitioned from translucent to transparent, allowing the sun and stars to appear clearly from Earth's surface. Day and night became distinguishable, and seasonal cycles began to influence life. This perfectly matches the biblical description of lights for signs, seasons, days, and years. On the fifth day, God created, or Bara, the great sea creatures and flying beings. This marks a profound new creation, soulish creatures with mobility, nervous systems, and social behaviors. Scientifically, this corresponds to the Cambrian explosion, around 540 million years ago, when complex marine life flourished in a relatively short geological period. Later flying creatures such as birds and insects appeared, though Moses grouped all airbound life under flying creatures. The biblical text captures both the sudden emergence and novelty of these creatures, emphasizing God's creative power in producing fully functioning life forms with new capacities. The sixth day sees the emergence of land animals and humanity. Land animals diversified over millions of years, from large mammals tens of millions of years ago to smaller herbivores and predators. The Hebrew text mostly uses asa, meaning to make or shape, emphasizing God's organization and guidance rather than creating entirely new kinds. When it comes to humanity, however, the text uses Bara 3 times in rapid succession. God created mankind in his image, male and female, he created them. Humans appeared roughly 100,000 to 150,000 years ago, introducing symbolic thought, morality, abstract reasoning, language, and spiritual awareness, capacities that distinguish humanity from all other animals. The seventh day has no evening or morning, signaling that it continues to the present. God rested not from fatigue, but from creating fundamentally new life forms. We are still living in this rest day. Humans continue to manage the earth, evolution continues at micro levels, and the universe continues its natural aging. The ongoing seventh day reminds us that creation is complete in its major acts, yet dynamic and sustained by God. The Genesis account, through careful use of the Hebrew words Bara, Asa, and Yehi, aligns astonishingly with modern science. From the universe's beginning to the Theia impact, atmospheric evolution, the great oxygenation event, the emergence of complex life, and finally humanity, the biblical text provides a coherent sequence of creation events. It demonstrates that scripture and scientific discovery are not in conflict, but reveal a universe designed, ordered, and sustained by God.